Alright, welcome to the channel. We are going to be ranking all of the mainstream Pokemon games that have came out in ranking of tiers S, A, B, C, and D. Now, this is the best ranking I could find. So, like I said, we're going to rank them and we're going to see, what I believe are top tier games and subpar games. Ranking scale is very easy. Playability, replayability, the mechanics they added to it, soundtrack, so on and so forth. Of course, which Pokemon were added to the games and which ones were removed for each generation of games. So the first one we're going to start off with here is Red and Green. I mean, you can never go wrong with the original Red and Green. We're going to throw that in A tier. Blue, same thing with those. A tier. Yellow added the aspect of having a follow Pokemon with you. Sadly, it was a Pikachu, but your rival did end up having an Eevee. I think it's safe to say it belongs ahead of Red, Green, and Blue in A tier. Gold and Silver, very good games. But the level scaling is kind of off in this game. Overall, it is a great game. Pokemon, good mons that were added. It was awesome being able to go back to Generation 1's region of Kanto. Very, very fun game. But overall, I think it was more of an average game due to the level scaling issue. Then we have Crystal, which I think it belongs in the lower end of the A tier because we got the sprites being able to finally have slight movements in this one. Very, very good. Same basic gameplay though as Gold and Silver, but again, what hurts it is the level scaling issue that was also an issue in Gold and Silver. Next, we have Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. I don't care what anybody says. Ruby and Sapphire are the best generation, in my personal opinion, Generation 3. But you got to put Emerald up in the S tier. Probably one of the best Pokemon games ever made. Starters were great. All three final evolutions of starters have the most viability, I think, of all the generations. All three of them are solid final evos. Then we're going to be looking at Leaf Green and Fire Red. Leaf Green, Fire Red, it was good having the remakes of Gen 1, and then they added the Orange Islands, which added a good little side quest to it after the 7th badge, I believe. Then it came with the communications to where you could hook the things onto your Game Boy Advance or SPs and be able to communicate back and forth with each other. Pretty cool, but I think overall it falls in the B tier behind Gold and Silver. It struggled. It struggled because it was trying to compete with the nostalgia of the original Red and Blue and Yellow. It's kind of hard to beat the OG games. Original Diamond and Pearl, it's a low B tier. Platinum is just slightly above it. The story was good, but the lackluster Pokemon is what really was a struggle for me. Also, mechanics. We can talk about mechanics as well. Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald added the special physical split, but they didn't fully map out how good of physical and special split would be, where the elements were all just considered special, and so on and so forth. Then you got Generation 4 that came along, and Platinum, Diamond, and Pearl that expanded on that, made it a bit better. Overall, really good games. Heart Gold, Soul Silver, in my opinion, is also an A tier game. Again, the level scaling issue is a problem with the gold and silver games, but the remakes for Heart Gold and Soul Silver really pushes this one ahead of its original predecessors in Gold and Silver and Crystal. Now, I will get a lot of hate for this. I think Black and White are D and Black and White 2 or C. Now, story, it was okay. Where it lacks personally is in the starter Pokemon category. They don't live up to all the previous generation starters. They are, in my personal opinion, of all generations, the worst starters in Black and White. Rival was okay, story was okay. Overall, it was a bit of a struggle. X and Y, very good games. If you look at just the mechanics wise, story, extremely lackluster. It was slow in the beginning and then sped up and clumped all together there in the end, which, in my opinion, causes it to fall short because the story just wasn't there. It's a cool story if they didn't rush it at the end and if they built the story around the whole game, but there being where it's just little bits thrown in, and then at the end they try to cram so much, just can't give it to them there. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, they are good, but due to the remakes, or you can't beat with nostalgia. You just can't beat nostalgia. Yes, they are good games. They added the Mega Evolution like you get from X and Y. Then you have the little arc in the end. But overall, I don't think it was like I've said in previous ones, you can't live up to the OGs, especially when it comes to remakes. Sun and Moon, I am throwing them at the top of D tier. Now, Sun and Moon, good mechanics. The gimmick that they had in this one with the moves was very unique. No gyms in this generation. You had the trials. It was good games, but I felt like the entire time I was playing something was missing. And Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, they did make up for that. But this is going into the bottom of B tier because it just felt like the game dragged on way too long, especially in some aspects of it, with all the talking and then the people coming from the other dimension, their dialogue just seemed to slow the game down and make it a very sluggish game. But the story aspects that were added over Sun and Moon made it better. But overall, I still think it was a struggling game due to pacing. Alright, let's just get this over with. Let's go Pikachu and Eevee. Should not have been done. I understand why they did it for the Pokemon Go people. But this game never should have been made. It just shouldn't have. It was a waste of money, a waste of time. I just never should have been made. Sword and Shield, top of C tier. Now, the reason I'm putting it in C tier is, again, pacing. Yes, they added the aspect where you could skip cutscenes, so on and so forth. But the pacing of it just seemed too spread out in my personal opinion. It is the first game that came to the Switch, so you can expect some limitations or trying of how do I put this? Trying to make it to where the game just ran smoothly and not fully doing what they can into the game. Now, we will come back to talk about the Switch when we talk about another game. Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. Again, it's a remake we really didn't need. The graphics were. It's hard because in Sword and Shield, when you're looking at the Switch graphics, it was very. It looked like normal Switch games. And then you go to uh, the Diamond and Pearl remakes, and it looks like they took a step back. They took a step back with the graphics, and I don't think that was smart. I know they weren't the normal developers didn't quote unquote create this game, but I think it did struggle in that aspect. Um, we already know this is going up here. Legends of Arceus, graphics amazing, gameplay's amazing. The components of being able to catch without having to battle was very nice. Everything in the graphics of Legends of Arceus wishes the other Switch games for Pokemon wish that's what they could be. It really really outshone the other ones, especially our last our last game on the list, and that's Scarlet and Violet. I think Scarlet and Violet is definitely the highest of all the C rank games, but with the loading issues and so on and so forth, it really hurt it. Yes, it bumped itself up because before the DLCs, it definitely would have been a D tier game, but with the added DLCs, with the story in the DLCs, very good story, very good writing, bumps it up to the top of C. If it didn't have the graphics issue that it has, to where it's struggling to load, overall, I think the game would have been high B, low A. I mean, it's such a good game. It's just the whole graphics thing is what holds this back. Um, well, that's my ranking of all the games. If you feel like you would change something, let me know down in the comments below. If there's anything that you think I can work on, leave that also in the comments below. Please excuse the video quality and the audio quality. We're working on it to try to get that as a better experience. Yeah, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment below, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. And I'll see you guys on the next one.